Lewis for the 9 o'clock news.
Accident investigators and relatives of the victims have arrived at the Lockerbie plane crash. The evidence from the wreckage, a faint noise at the end of the black box tape, but so far no proof of sabotage. The government promises to review security at all British airports, but says you can't warn travellers about every single bomb threat. Good evening. The black box cockpit flight recording from the Pan American jumbo crash ends with a faint, unidentified noise, which, say the experts, needs further investigation. But so far, no evidence has been found to support the sabotage theory. A row has broken out on both sides of the Atlantic over whether governments should have made public the anonymous telephone warning that there was a bomb on a Pan Am plane. President Reagan says if you reacted to every such warning, you'd close down all the air traffic in the world. 45 relatives of those who died in the crash arrived in Lockerbie today. So did a team of 40 American investigators who went straight to work. The government has, meanwhile, ordered a review of security at all British airports. The Transport Secretary, Paul Channon, confirmed that he'd known of a threat to bomb a Pan Am jet, but said such warnings were received continuously. The BAA, which runs Heathrow Airport, says it wasn't told of the threat. Mr. Channon flew to the West Indies for a holiday today, a decision described by Labour as unbelievable and insensitive at such a time. But the government says Mr. Channon has set up the official inquiry and is being kept closely in touch with developments.
At Heathrow Airport today, airline flags were at half-mast. On the concourse, an alert was sparked by a suspicious suitcase. Terminal 3 was evacuated. Officials said they were, as always, strictly enforcing the government's security requirements. They are now under review. Heathrow is run by BAA, formerly the British Airports Authority. It says it did not receive any information about the threat of a bomb on a Pan Am flight. The airline did, but was warned by the Federal Aviation Administration not to pass the information on to the public. The Department of Transport has confirmed it too was told of the bomb threat, but says all flights by American Airlines merit special protection in the UK, and Pan Am already carries out enhanced security measures.
Many pieces of information, many warnings are received over the course of a few months, and if these were just fed out to the public without any assessment, then they would lose their impact. The important thing, it seems to me, is to examine the evidence, to assess whether the security information is particularly significant, and if it is, of course, to take the appropriate action.
Now, what worries me is that those who have the information decide to tell nobody, take actions apparently themselves to avoid going on Pan Am, and the public are not told that information. I just happen to think that's wrong, and the Secretary of State, if he knew it, should have told Parliament, and we could have questioned on that particular issue.
At Frankfurt Airport too, the strict security regime is being closely scrutinised. Already all baggage is x-rayed, there's electronic surveillance, and passengers are routinely searched and questioned.
Have anyone here at the airport asked you to carry any type of letters or package tape back to the US with you? Do you have any weapons, any type, knives, scissors, anything to be used as a weapon?
At both Heathrow and Frankfurt, the sheer volume of passengers creates problems. Heathrow handles 54 million items of baggage a year. Inevitably, a few get separated from their owners. But one question being closely examined is whether someone could put their baggage on a flight without actually boarding it. Pan Am says all luggage on its flights is constantly checked and screened. This passenger says when she flew with Pan Am from Heathrow to Athens via Frankfurt earlier this year, her baggage was put onto the connecting flight, though she and her husband missed it.
At the time, I was surprised. I was very surprised that they would allow luggage to go unaccompanied by a passenger, but they didn't seem to be too bothered by it at all.
Tonight, an Air India jumbo jet returned to Heathrow after a bomb threat. The Boeing 747, bound for New York with 250 people on board, turned back after the airline's New York office received an anonymous telephone call claiming there was a bomb on board. The passengers have been taken off and a detailed search is being carried out.
Michael Burke has been with the accident investigators and the town people of Lockerbie today. This is his report.
About 20 relatives of the victims of Pan Am Flight 103 arrived in Lockerbie this evening. They'd ignored advice not to come, but were made welcome. They were ushered into the coordination centre where counsellors and social workers were waiting. Police said they'd be comforted and looked after while they remained in the town, and every effort would be made to help them.
Our whole approach to the dead of this terrible tragedy is one that each one is an individual. People react differently, and if relatives do want to come on, if they find comfort in coming on, then we are geared with the social work department to help and assist them further when they arrive in Lockerbie.
But you advise them to the American authorities not to present?
Our advice to them, if at all possible, now is not the time to come to Lockerbie.
The hunt for those still lost fanned out from Lockerbie today. The searchers drew up in ragged ranks on the hills around. Above the town, a jumbo jet tracked west to New York. The flight path the crew of Pan Am Flight 103 was taking before their plane broke up and tumbled 2.5 minutes to the ground. They took the flight deck apart today in the search for an answer to what caused the explosive rupture from the fuselage, and to take the crew away. They brought the police and firemen close round and put up a tarpaulin as they cut through to the cockpit. They took the captain away first and then the co-pilot. So suddenly did tragedy overtake them, neither had a chance to radio a warning or even speak to each other before they died. They were among 90 bodies helicoptered into Lockerbie today from the hills around, victims of a tragedy whose cause is still officially unknown.
There obviously are a number of potential causes for an in-flight breakup. We are looking for evidence to try and point us in the right direction. To suggest that it would be one or the other at this stage would be wrong.
But have you learned anything yet which tends to strengthen the sabotage theory?
We have no evidence whatsoever yet of sabotage.
They're looking for that evidence in what until Wednesday night was Sherwood Crescent. They brought the soldiers in today to move aside the rubble and to gather what fragments of the Boeing remain among the broken bricks. There isn't much to go on, even for the experts. An entire wing loaded down with fuel fell on the street like a great burning sword. It's hard to find anything of the aeroplane or even of the lives of those who lived here. Everything that's found in the houses is wrapped in plastic bags, marked and mapped, and taken away to join the jigsaw that will provide an answer for the investigators. There are weeks of work left in the wreckage of Sherwood Crescent. One tiny fragment could be all that's needed. A long search and a grim one.
It's been very grisly for the young men. It really is a battlefield shock situation for some of the younger ones, but they're standing up to it exceptionally well.
It's the first time they've had an experience like that.
I would think for the vast majority it's the first time they've ever seen a dead body, as it is, I think, for even some of the younger policemen.
Outside Lockerbie, the search for wreckage and bodies has fanned out 15 miles into wilder country. It will push out even further tomorrow. In the tight, packed woods, they're using rescue dogs brought in from Cumberland. It would be hopeless for men to search here, but the Lakeland Curs have been finding wreckage and bodies on the forest stretches.
Roger to that, Ian. If you just follow the shale bank round and take a right at the end of the shale bank, we're just in a clearing there, over.
If you were to search this on your own, you know, I mean, you could be stuck next to something, you couldn't see anything. It's so thick in the woods.
Did they see everything?
Well, they actually go off airborne scent, so, you know, they might get something maybe 500 yards away, and they'll just home in on it. Yeah, they don't go off ground scent, they're not really tracker dogs, they work off airborne scent. They can actually find things in trees, you know, they'll sort of put their head up and sort of indicate up a tree if there's something up there.
Lockerbie is slowly being reconnected to the outside world. The community is still shaken, still disorientated by everything that's happened. The town hall, where the dead are laid, is the focus of much emotion here. The bouquets of sorrow have been building up outside its doors, some from local people, some from far away. There are letters of condolence too. One from President Reagan, talking of the tragedy which has marred the season of joy. Lockerbie is a place where now there seems no point in putting lights on the Christmas tree.
And President Reagan, as Michael Burke said, has sent a message of sympathy to the people of Lockerbie. And answering questions about the tragedy, he defended the decision not to make public the warning that a bomb would be placed on a Pan Am jet. He said every precaution that could have been taken was taken.